Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another video. I hope you all are doing well. Today I want to count down a few of what I think are the best moments of Walking Dead this year, or I guess 2024, considering we just started 2025. But I just want to count down a few moments that really kind of stuck with me this year. And yes, they are going to be kind of limited to only the two spin-offs that we got this year, which was the Daryl Dixon and The Ones Who Live. And I can kind of tell you which direction that's going to kind of lean as far as best moments, because I have made my complaints about Daryl Dixon pretty well known through the last handful of videos I've done regarding The Walking Dead. And Daryl Dixon has been very, in my opinion, just low performing and not what we would have wanted in a story, considering the buildup that we got, the stories that got introduced within the first season, and just everything that was talked about and hyped up about the second season that just did not really come to pass, did not meet those expectations. But with The Ones Who Live, up until that last episode, was just a great show. Great to see Rick back. Had just some really awesome moments within that first season and what looks like the only season we're going to get of that show. But I just want to count down these handful of moments and just kind of go on talking about Walking Dead and just where the state of it is now and just where we kind of lie with everything as we are with Walking Dead going into 2025, what we can expect, just everything that's still left unanswered and just open-ended and just everything. But without further ado, let's jump into the moments that I've deemed worthy of our 2024 most memorable moments of The Walking Dead. Now, the first one, this is kind of going from least important to most important. First one is going to be the reunion of Daryl and Carol. I really enjoyed seeing them back on screen together, seeing them just having that very much family moment, seeing that embrace and everything. But I hated everything that led up to that moment. That was kind of the result of that moment, which was the death of Isabel and just everything kind of falling apart within the nest. And just, it was not as good as I would have hoped. And that kind of leads into another moment that I'll bring up in a second. But as a whole, that moment was okay. Just, I didn't care for the things that led up to that moment. Now, going into the next one, this one was also kind of a disappointing but big moments within Daryl Dixon, which was seeing Daryl and Condron work together, seeing them, make up with each other, seeing how Daryl was able to communicate that everything that Condron knew was actually incorrect and everything about the consequences surrounding the death of his brother and everything, and seeing how Condron stepped up, being that he was not going to harm a child, he was going to protect Laurent and get him where he needed to be, and in that to protect Daryl and everything about that little group or that little setup or whatever. And it was good to see Condron just step up, be the good guy that we know him to be. But his ending was very dissatisfying, seeing him just kind of disappear into the darkness of that tunnel, and we have no idea if he's going to be back or just what their plans are for that character, and everything that was just kind of involved in the progression of his character, seeing what he could become. And then it was just all kind of disregarded with that ending that we got for season 2 of Daryl, which again, just kind of big complaint right there. It was hyped up so much by the star, and then it just had nothing as far as payout. He hyped it up, and that was just kind of very underwhelming and just very poor performing. And it just was not worth the watch, really. Every episode of that season was just very forgettable, but that's a whole nother video, and I've kind of made that video once or twice. But going into the next moment, now this one, kind of a 50-50 as far as it was really awesome, but really kind of stupid. And sadly, that's kind of the big things for the Daryl series. But we got the death of Janae. We had her build up through that whole first season. She was supposed to be, or she seemed to be, this very formidable character and formidable villain. And then her experiments and everything just literally came back to bite her in the ass, where she was shot in the back by Carol with one of those variant Walker darts. And then she suffered what seemed to be a very horrible death, but very well-deserved death too at the same time. And that was the end of her character. And then it moved on to another villain. And then it moved on to another villain. And it was just very lackluster in the sense of what they were trying to accomplish with that season. But moving on to the next one. Now, this is where we get into the good ones. The ones I really enjoyed. This is the One Who Lives moments. And there's a handful of them that really stuck out to me when I watched that series. And this next one, this was something that the fans really wanted for a long time. It was something that was a very long time coming. And when we got it, we couldn't help but still feel a little bit sorry for her. And it was a big shock, but at the same time, it wasn't. It was something that we all very much wanted. But when it came, when Jadis finally got hers, we still felt a little bit sorry, but at the same time, we are like, finally, yes, this woman is being put down for all the crap that she did over the years, all the lying, all the manipulation, everything that she did to prevent Rick and Michonne from getting home, to keeping him imprisoned within the CRM and threatening Alexandria and everybody back home. We finally got her death, and we were just like, kind of split down the middle. Maybe that's just me, but I was just like, finally, yes, it's done. She's put down. But at the same time, I'm like, shit, she could have served a little bit more purpose. She could have redeemed herself because we had the whole montage or whatever, the flashbacks of her going back to the Alexandria area to sit with Gabriel, to explain to him about what's going on, about how she can't tell him where she's at, where she's been, or anything like that. But when it finally came, we were just like, well, shit. I'm glad she's dead, but at the same time, she could have probably redeemed herself a little bit, and then it would have kind of maybe weaved a new story in a sense, to where it just would have given her the redemption that she needed, giving her something to live for, because the whole thing with her wanting to keep this secret and keep Rick prisoner was because she felt like she belonged in the CRM. She felt like she served a purpose there. But she just really had us divided as fans, I think, at least in my case. It could be completely different. I could be completely talking out of my ass, but just that's how I felt when that moment came. But at the same time, it was still very much deserved on her part for all the things that she did. And this next one is kind of a big one, too, which was the fight between Okafor and Rick, because in that moment, in that fight, we got some big reveal that goes back all the way to the beginning of Fear, to the beginning of Walking Dead, where Okafor reveals that he was the one who was behind the bombings of Atlanta and Los Angeles. And that was just like a big wow moment, a very exciting moment. I really enjoyed that character. And I was really kind of bummed out in the way he died, too. That was a very kind of poor way for that character to go out. But nonetheless, that was a very big moment. I really enjoyed that moment. It stuck with me. And that was a scene that I actually watched multiple times just because it was very well performed. It was well written. And just seeing that big reveal, too, that did a service to the fans of seeing, you know, just exactly who was responsible for those bombings and just where they came from and what happened to those characters that were involved and how they proceeded to live and all that. But going into this next moment, now this is kind of a big one too. This goes all the way back into the comics, so it kind of mirrors this character, which was Rick cutting off his hand, mirroring his comic book counterpart. And that was just something that was very speculated amongst the fan base when they were doing filming. There was leaks, there was people saying, oh, it's definitely going to happen. I was kind of in that 50-50 camp where it wouldn't make sense at the time, but the way they did it, the way they approached it, and just the purpose that it really served as far as progressing Rick into that moment where he's reached that moment of desperation where he has no other choice. He has to do this. He has to get out of here, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get out of the situation that he's in. So I really enjoyed that too. And going on to what would be, I guess, the number one moment was, of course, the Rick and Michonne reunion. This was a big deal. This is something that was in the works for 5-6 years. And there was a lot of emotion, a lot of just everything in that moment where Michonne rips that mask off of Rick, realizing it's him, and just having a complete breakdown and saying how she finally found him. And that was a big moment for the Walking Dead world, seeing this happen, seeing these characters come back together, but albeit kind of a very tragic moment too. We had the character of Nat, who was brought in. He had some very dramatic moments, and his dialogue and the actor who portrayed this part did very well. We pretty much fell in love with this character within that matter of that one episode, and then he was killed off, and he kind of served his purpose too. That was kind of a trend there with some of these characters that they had in all of the spinoffs. But that moment as a whole was very, I don't know, it was very fulfilling in a sense where we knew it was coming. We didn't know when it was going to come, but just the way they did it, it very much worked out how they did it. But kind of going into what I consider a bonus moment and something that fans really loved, of course, was the moments that Rick and Jadis are having arguments about. Jadis knows that Rick's trying to get out, and Jadis is trying to take all this credit for keeping him alive and everything. And Rick says, of course, you're a hero with a shit haircut. And I know the fandom loved that. We all kind of lost our minds about that. And it was very much speaking the opinion of fans for a very long time with Jadis with that weird ass haircut that she had for many seasons of multiple shows. So it was a very awesome moment and kind of a nod to the fans saying, we hear you, we're going to kind of throw this in there just for a little giggle. So I really enjoyed that. But anyways, guys, that is my breakdown of what I believe are some of the best moments of the Walking Dead universe this last year. being that we only had the 2 spinoffs, The Walking Dead is very much not what it used to be, and I really hope they pick it up and step it up and do something to really get us excited about this franchise again, because right now we're just kind of stuck in this limbo of what does it all mean, what is it all going to amount to, what's the big plan. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and my opinions and just my general talk about The Walking Dead. If you did, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing, and I would really appreciate it. So until next time, guys, take care. Bye.